Alright, so now what we're going to do is go over the on-center spacing. Now, on-center spacing for this drawing, I'm going to make it 1.5 inches. Alright, so that means there's going to be a stud every 1.5 inches here. I'll show you how to do that. So from the outside of the wall, I make my mark 1/4 inch, and that's my first stud. Remember, 1/4 inch is the thickness of our studs. So from here, I'm going to go to 1.5. Now this here, 1.5, that's the center of my stud. My studs are 1/4 inch thick. So what I want to do is, I want to move over 1/8 of an inch here, and 1/8 of an inch on the opposite side of my 1/4, which is my stud center. Next stud, 1.5 inches away, is 3. Now there's already a king stud here, so I'm not going to bother putting a stud. Move over to 4.5, go 1/8 of an inch over, and 1/8 of an inch over 4.5. There's my second stud. I'll talk about the stud in a second. From here, go over to 6, 1/4 of an inch over, 1/4 of an inch over. From 6 to 7.5, 1/4 of an inch over, 1/4 of an inch, or sorry, 1/8 of an inch over, 1/8 of an inch over. Okay. Then we go to 9, 1/8, and 1/8. And then the next one after this is 10.5. So we don't have to worry about that. All right, I'm gonna go back up to the top. Make sure you guys can see that. From here, make my 1/4 inch mark for my first stud. Then I'm going to go over 1.5 inches, 1/8 of an inch on this side, and 1/8 of an inch on this side to give me my 1.5 inch center. Remember, center is from center to center. All right. So now I'm going to lay out my next 3. Again, king studs there, don't have to lay it out, don't have to mark it. 4.5, we go 1/4 inch, or 1/8 of an inch, and 1/8 of an inch. Go over to the 6, 1/8 and 1/8. After 6, another 1.5 inches would be 7.5. So we go 1/8 on that side and 1/8 on this side. From 7.5, we go to 9, 1/8 and 1/8. Okay. Now you simply just connect the dots. Now you notice how I'm using a ruler to make my lines nice and straight and clean. Makes everything look nicer. Okay, now for these guys. Now, because there's a doorway here, we don't need to draw these studs. So, but we do have to draw these studs above the header. So what we do is we line up our lines to draw our studs. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at the top of the header. Move over and stop at the top of the header. Move over here. Move over here. And now I have 2 cripple studs up here. Okay, so these are our C's, our cripples. All right, king stud, my jack stud. These are regular studs. Mark those. My bad. You mark these with an X. This is still our king stud, not our regular stud. I'm going to go ahead and finish my last 2 studs. One more down here. Finish my first stud. And of course, I forgot my last stud. So I'm going to go ahead and make that mark now. 1/4 of an inch from the outside. and then 1/4 of an inch from the outside. So what I do is I put on a whole number and move over 4/16, 1/4 of an inch. And I make my line like that. Okay. Now, I'm missing 2 things here. My top plate and my bottom plate. I'll draw those after.